Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Slingin Leather, Southern California's official combat sports show. I am Scuba Steve.
Chino Hernandez.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's so good to be back after the sabbatical that we both took. We're both locked and ready to go. UFC 308 this weekend. We got the UFC featherweight champion, the undefeated Ilia Topuria, looking for his first featherweight title defense against the BMF champion, one of the greatest featherweights of all time, who bested Jose Aldo twice, Max Blessed Holloway. We also have a bona fide title eliminator fight at 185 pounds with the former middleweight champion of the world, Robert Whitaker, and the perpetual prospect, as we've come to see with his lack of activity, Khamzat Chimaev, who is still an incredible fighter and will make for a fantastic fight. And let's not forget, Edgar, we were both talking about this just before. We got four undefeated fighters on this. Ilya and Chimaev are just two of them. Isn't that crazy, man?
That's wild. I mean, I can't remember the last time we had four undefeated fighters in one card. I mean, Dana White went all out with this card. It's incredible to see. So I'm very excited.
And it's one of those cards where you got a lot of these fighters that are really starting to break through. This one win for all of those guys really changes the tone and the public opinion around their whole career. And from top to bottom, this main card is just looking fantastic. And it's going to be a big night for a lot of these young guys. That's for sure. All of this is taking place at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, meaning that the main card will be beginning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for our friends on the West Coast and 1 p.m. Central Time for our homies out in the Midwest. And opening up the card, we have one of the biggest prospects coming out of Dagestan, Sharafudin Magomedov, taking on Armen Petrosyan at middleweight. And Magomedov is one of these undefeated fighters. He's shown some great striking since he's been in the UFC, 3-0 thus far, and has some wins over some great guys. And Petrosyan's, not a slouch on the feet as well. But as you know, when you have someone who's so creative and so frenetic in their striking, it can be hard to figure them out in the early going. What do you see in Shara that's going to be hard to figure out?
I think one thing when I think about Shara is his leg kicks. I think he's just known for those nasty leg kicks. And I remember hearing Joe Rogan just sitting there and in complete awe of the sound of his leg kicks as well, though they're lethal. So I think that's one thing I'll be looking out for Shara is those leg kicks. And um obviously if he can be very successful with that, then that's just gonna take out the lower body, which will then possibly lead to the top of, maybe a knockout to the leg with the leg kick, which would be insane. We've seen it before, so I'm sure it could
Mhm.
happen again.
I mean, last time we saw Jonathan Martinez just like take Adrian Yanez's leg out, which was like a grotesque
Yeah.
performance. And this guy is more than capable of doing those things. When I look at this matchup, the difference between the two is definitely the creativity, and that obviously goes to Shara. And he has almost revitalized the kick from the back in some of his previous fights. He does it in a way that a lot of people haven't. Like, for example, Nico Price has several up kick knockouts where he's basically just in his guard and kicks straight up. He doesn't do that. He plants his right hand and comes around with his left leg as almost like a roundhouse kick. And Petrosyan's not a grappler. He doesn't have any wins by submission, and he's only ever lost by submission. If I'm not mistaken, he has two lost by submission. And if Shara gets dropped, you can't just stand with him in the guard. You got to either enter or you got to call him back up to the feet. That speaks
Yep.
to the creativity. Do you think Armin has the potential to shoot knowing that?
Man, that's a good question. Anything's possible. It's a fight game. I think we all know that, but realistically, Shara is just he's so creative and he's so lethal. I just don't know if there's any way that Petrosian can just get in there and be able to solve that puzzle.
Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about momentum, and if we're talking about, I this is always a taboo topic, but preferential treatment from the UFC, I'm not going to go as far to say is that Magomedov is getting the Sugar Sean or Michael Chandler treatment, but he's certainly getting some shine from the UFC simply because the dude's exciting to watch. And I think there's a bit too much momentum, don't you think?
Yeah, no, definitely I'd say so. I mean, he's very early in his career. Even though we're hearing a lot about him, we don't know yet how well he'd do against the top champions and the top people of the division. So I think right now it's just, remain calm for now, stay calm because anything can happen. And we've been seeing a lot of upsets lately with the UFC and just fighting in general. So, I mean, anything can happen. I do feel there's gonna be upsets in this card. Um, but yeah, like stay calm. We'll see what
Mhm.
happens in the future. Once he gets that big test, then we'll be able to assess whether he really got it or if he's, just another guy who just shunned with nobodies.
It's going to be this is one of those proxy fights to send you into those real tests because it's going to be hard to test him against a striker not named Israel Adesanya or Robert Whitaker or Dricus Duplessis or someone like that. It's going to be much easier to test him with a decent grappler. I mean, Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vittori, a someone of that caliber who's a very decent
Usman as
grappler.
well.
I'm sorry.
Usman as well. That could be
Oh
a
yeah, I mean, if Usman wants to go up to 85, I mean, with the whole thing with Usman is a whole mess. If he wants to go up to 85 and fight Shara, that's a real tough fight. But I mean, I think with the vulnerabilities that he has, it would be an interesting fight.
yeah.
For this one in particular, though, I think I'm going Shara by late TKO. I think he's going to be able to find some openings and really get Petrosian to think and bite on some of the feints. I think he's going to be able to get him out of there late.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think those leg kicks are just gonna take out the lower body, which will just lead to the whole thing crumbling down. So,
Hmm. And up next, yet another undefeated guy. I mean, it's still dizzying to me how many undefeated guys we got. We got the number 12 ranked unbeaten Lerone Murphy out of the United Kingdom going against the number 14 Dan 50K Ige coming out of the 8 islands in Hawaii. We got Lerone Murphy an undefeated 14-0 and 1. He has one draw on his record. And he's one of the hottest prospects coming out of the UK, who's had some of the most bright prospects coming out as of recent, haven't they, Chino?
yeah, and I do want to say I love fighters from the UK. It's just something about the crowd that they bring with them. Like once they're a superstar. Like the crowds chant. Like you've seen it within boxing. Like what was the
You've seen
recent
it
fight?
firsthand, bro.
Yep, I have. It's being in London and witnessing it. It's just incredible the atmosphere being in Wembley and whatnot. Like it's incredible. Anthony Joshua just fought Daniel Dubois, and I mean you could hear it from them, the passion, the singing, everything. There's nothing like it. It's just incredible. So something about the UK and me. Maybe I have a little bias from going there in person, but it's lovely, and I love fighters from there, and they always bring some excitement.
The only singing we got here in the US is like those college football fight songs. I
Yeah,
mean, sure, my mom put me on her lap and she taught me cheer for old Notre Dame at 2 years old, but they have a song for everything. Like they had a
yeah.
song for Tom Aspinall before he was even champion. Like he was in a main event once, and then they're singing this whole like, "Oh, Tommy Aspinall" thing, and I'm like, they just come up with that on the spot over there. And
Yeah.
even though he doesn't have this crowd backing him, he's an incredibly likable fighter. He has that youthful excitement about him. Like, he's really just going out there and trying to gain a fan base based on his own skills. And that's, reminiscent of a lot of those younger guys like Sugar Sean when he was on his come up, or, for example, Max when he was on his come up, just trying to showcase his skills. And you definitely get off that vibe with especially how free he is. It's really like Sugar Sean, but with in shall I say a more emphasis on kicking.
Yeah.
And against a guy like Danny Gay, that'll bode well. But especially with this fight, experience is going to be a big difference. I mean, Danny Gay's been in there with the best. How
Yeah.
big of a difference do you think it's going to be, despite the fact that Laurel Murphy has more tools?
Man, I do want to give credit to Dan Ige. It was recently he came, what was it? He had 24 hours to prepare for a fight, I believe.
4 hours.
4 hours.
4 hours.
My bad. 4 hours to prepare for a fight. And I mean, almost did it. Almost did it.
Oh yeah.
Incredible guy. Incredible guy. I mean, you can't you can't look past Dan Ige. I think Dan Ige on a full camp he has the experience, he has the grit. He's not gonna quit. You gotta kill this man. So I'm excited for this fight because it's a huge test for both fighters. I think for Lerone Murphy, it's a huge test for him to see if he's got it. And it might go to full distance. I kind of see it going to full distance if I'm being honest. And then Danny Ige he won't quit. So it's a test of youth versus experience, really.
Without a doubt. And an interesting factoid about that previous fight against Diego Lopez at UFC 303. Again, 4 hours notice, and it's one of those fights that just doesn't make any sense in a vacuum because you have Diego Lopez, who's the backup fighter for this fight.
Oh my God.
He's the
That,
backup fighter for Max versus Ilya.
oh
He's
my,
next in line for a title shot. He took Diego Lopez 3 rounds and won one of them. And not only that, you know what he did in his previous fight? He put Andre Feely's lights out cold on the day of his child's birth. So needless
oh,
to say, he can rise to the occasion. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And
yeah,
this is one of those moments where he could really it like with this long camp, with his experience, and with that equalizer, that one shot knockout power, if he's able to close the distance, Dan Ige got this wrapped up, in my opinion. Larone's great, but Larone's going to have to fight the perfect fight. Dan's got to make this a dog fight. You think so?
yeah, 100%. I do think that too. I mean, Lerone he has some power too. I believe he has 7 knockouts, 7 wins by knockout. So he has some power as well. I just don't know. I have a feeling it might go the distance because lately we've been seeing fighters that do both have power, and then you just see it go the distance as well. So I think it's gonna be an exciting fight. Someone can definitely get knocked out. Um, but I definitely see it going the distance. And if I'm being honest, I might have to go with experience for this one and go with Danny Ige. I just think he has that grit. He has that thing about him that he's not gonna stop. He's not gonna quit. So
Mm-hmm. And a lot of those, a lot of the X's and O's of this fight, a lot of the visual doesn't really play into Danny Gay's favor. But if you look at all the intangibles, it's creating a level of experience and a wall that may be hard to overcome for Lerone
yeah,
Murphy because especially he hasn't come off wins against guys as experienced and as live of a dog as Dan Ige. He's fought very experienced guys. I mean, he has a win over Edson Barboza. It's a great, great striker, but he's damn near 40 years old at a lightweight class. He's just not going to do that well. Dan Ige is in the prime of his career. 2 kids. He may have had a third for this fight. Who knows? But he's looking for the finish in this fight literally because he knows this is his time with even in a loss in his previous fight on 4 hours notice. I
yeah.
think Dan Ige got this one wrapped up, but I think like you're saying it's gonna be a drag him out war. I still am leaning towards him by TKO, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be real close.
I do want to say too, like, I mean, I've seen this with a lot of like youth technical fighters. Obviously they're very technical, but like when they face a veteran who has that dog in him, the whole technicality, it doesn't matter how much you have, it just goes out the window because it just turns into a dog fight. So that's kind of another reason why I'm leaning towards Danny Ige. I think he just has that dog in him to just take out all the skill. I mean, you've got to be like special to be able to dismantle a fighter like that. So we'll see if Murphy got that thing in him, you
He's
know?
got to have that dog. He's got to be as tough as nails in order to get this win. That is without a doubt.
Absolutely.
And next up, our only fight of the night not involving an undefeated fighter. We have Magomed Ankalaev, maybe one of the biggest title fight snubs in recent memory. If I feel that is a not a very hot take anymore. And Alexander Rakic, the Serbian pride of my friend Milan Jovanovic. Shout out to my boy. And this is also a bona fide title eliminator for 205 because at this point, these are the only 2 guys that Alex Pereira has not fought. And going back to the point that I made earlier, have we ever seen a fighter quite as snubbed as Magomed Ankalaev?
Man, oh man, that's not that I can recall. I mean, this guy is special. He's special. I mean, I've seen his fights, Pereira and Ankalaev. That's something that everybody wants to see. If it isn't John Jones or Aspinall, it's gotta be this guy.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And he's looked so good as of recent. I mean, he had that horrible the decision at the cost of at the hands of the judges with Jan Blachowicz in their vacant light heavyweight title fight. He goes in and he has a no contest against Johnny Walker, and then they rematch immediately after, he goes in and he sleeps Johnny Walker early in the fight, and this dude somehow is still fighting, not in the co-main or the main event for an actual title fight. I mean, this is one of the biggest snubs ever. Pereira's getting that preferential treatment, and instead of, allowing Magomed to properly train in the long term for this, they're giving him another live dog in Alexander Rakic. Even though even though he was finished in his last fight, he's still a top 5 fighter.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I mean Ankalaev, I'm just looking at his past history. I mean, the guy is incredible. He's fought Smith, he's fought Santos, obviously Johnny Walker, Jan. Like this, the guy he has one hell of a resume, that's for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
He's been there with the absolute best. So I mean, wow. And he has quite a bit of knockouts, 11 wins by knockout. That's some heavy power right there. I mean, you're looking at a guy he's got that grit and he's got that power. So I'm excited to see how this fight goes. I mean, Ankalaev, man, what can you say? He's a monster, isn't he?
I mean, he is without a doubt one of the most well-rounded fighters at 205, because if we go back to the 205 at, 2013, there were so many wrestlers. There was John Jones, there was DC, there were so many of these very capable grapplers, and then we also had Ryan Bader at 205 back in the day, and you had all these more than capable grapplers. I mean, oh no, Jacare was only at 185. Never mind, that was another one. But it's there were so many grapplers, and Magomed Ankalaev seems to be that really the only guy at 205 that's willing to take anyone down. That is what I know he's going to do in this fight, because Rakic can't do a thing on the ground. That's for sure. I mean, Alexander Rakic is a great fighter and he's hard to take down. But with the sambo background of Magomed Ankalaev, like it's just kind of like it's cornering Rakic into a position that he's going to either have to fight off the back foot, or he's going to have to get used to being on his back the rest of this fight, because
Yeah.
no grappling against Magomed, or at least takedown defense, maybe not deficiencies, but pedestrian takedown defense. I don't see this fight going well for Rakic personally.
Neither do I. I mean, I'm looking at his thing. He lost to Jan by knockout and then lost to Prochazka by knockout. And the last time he had fought before Prochazka was 2022. So he hasn't been that active as of recent. And you got Ankalaev, who's just been coming up the division and knocking guys out left and right. So I don't see it going well for him either. I think this is gonna be I don't want to say easy night, but it's not gonna be that tough for Ankalaev. I think he's gonna get it done. Um, maybe the second round. But it's gonna be a good night for Ankalaev.
Certainly. And I would agree. I'd probably go second round submission. And in addition, that the ACL injury that Rakic sustained that kept him out for so long, I feel like that may have played to his detriment a little bit. He was still doing well in the Prohaska fight. He did get caught, which led to the finish. But I mean, there's Yuri doesn't have that ground game like Uncle Ayab does. So I mean, Rakic, and I think he's got to protect his neck in this fight, and I really don't think he's going to be able to. I got Uncle
Yeah.
Ayab by second round submission as
And
well.
I think that makes the whole Pereira fight even more exciting because you got Pereira who's a full stand-up fighter. He does not grapple for the life of him. And then you got Ankalaev who he has power, but he can also grapple. So I think that fight's just being set up right now as one of those fights where we'll see. We know Pereira, he got that dog in him. We know he can pull it off. So it's it's gonna be that's like a really, really good fight. That might be 50-50, but that's a good
I
fight.
mean, it is a 50-50 if Magomed sticks to his word and says he wants to stand with Alex Pereira.
Yeah.
He said he didn't want to take him down. He said he wants to stand with him. I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it. I don't necessarily
Yeah.
believe that, because the power of the Shama,
That
I
guy's
don't
something else. That guy's
I don't like that for Magomed personally, but we'll see.
agreed.
He's got to win it. He's got to win on Saturday first. That's for sure.
Yep.
And then in the co-main, we have maybe one of the most beloved fighters in UFC history. If we're speaking frankly, we got Robert the Reaper Whitaker, Bobby Knuckles, former middleweight champion, taking on the undefeated perpetual prospect, as I said before, Hamzat Boris Chimaev. And you know, if Creative Trap had a picture in the dictionary, it would be a picture of this fight because they go in such stark contrast with each other. We
Yeah.
know what each one of them wants to do. It really just depends on who's able to impose their will, don't you think?
Agreed. Yeah, Whitaker, incredibly creative. The guy's a monster as well, and I mean, who doesn't love Whitaker, right? And then you got Hamza, who's, I mean, he's creative, but he's more rash and more of a dog type of fighter. I mean, we saw it with Usman. He just all the technicality went out the fence. It was just more of a wrestling fight, really. But yeah, this is one of those fights where I'm nervous about because I love Whitaker a lot. Um, so yeah, what do you think about it?
Here's here's the deal. If we look back at that Usman fight, there are a lot of things we could go off of, and there are a lot of things we simply cannot go off of. Because Usman took that fight on 11 days' notice, right?
Right.
I think it was a little less than 2 weeks. I'm not sure if it was 11 days, but it was a short notice fight. Usman had never fought at 185 in the UFC. He had previously fought against Leon Edwards, where he got head kicked in the head kick, heard around the world. He didn't really have time to game plan for Chimaev, and if anything, he was able to weather the storm in the first round without being able to prepare his cardio, and he was able to eventually turn it into a drag out war by the end of the fight in a third round that he actually won. I mean, he did look very good on the feet, and if we're comparing just the striking of Robert Whitaker and Kamaru Usman, that's not a contest. Robert Whitaker would knock Kamaru Usman out,
Absolutely.
and especially just the diversity and the flow and I mean just the spontaneity of a lot of his attacks. He is really able to time things incredibly well, and if he's able to weather the storm in that first 10 minutes, or again, let me just make sure if this is 5 minute rounds too. This is a 5 round fight. If he's able to weather the storm for the first 10 minutes, this is going to be Robert's fight to lose, because at that point Hamzat's going to be tired, and he's
Yeah.
probably going to have taken Robert down a couple times. If he can avoid the submission and make it to the third, I think Robert's really got a chance here.
Yeah.
But has he ever really faced a submission threat like Hamzat?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And Hamza, man, I mean, this guy, man. I'm looking at his previous fights as well. Beats Burns by which that fight was incredible.
My fight
Beats
of the year. My fight
Yeah,
of the year
that fight was
2022.
incredible. Such a good fight. Then he goes on to beat Holland. Then he goes on to beat Usman. Only thing I have with him is he doesn't fight too often. I think that's kind of the one thing about him where he'll fight, go on a high, and then take a break. And he's also like, I thought he was much younger than what he is. He's like 28, I believe, 27 or 28, but he's not. He's in the prime of his career. He should have been had in my opinion, he should have been had a championship fight, a title fight, but that hasn't happened.
This dude's
But
birthday.
when's his
Sorry, I'm
birthday?
actually just looking on Tapology. They don't even have his birthday. They literally just say he was born in Chechnya, and that's it. I was gonna
That's
say, one second, this is gonna bother me. Okay. Uh,
I searched this up the other day because I was curious. I was like, this guy has to be young. He's not that young.
yeah.
He's let's see. Yeah, oh wow, I was wrong. He's 30 years old.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so he's not young at all. He should have been had a title fight. And I think if he loses this fight to Whitaker, that's who knows, maybe he won't get a title fight after that just because I mean, he's not young anymore. He is in the prime, but he only has really 2 years left. I mean, that's what we've seen with most fighters, 2 years, 3 years left at most. And um you've got to be real special to last that long. And he's a special fighter, but I don't think he's that special as what people make him out to be. Um, but Whitaker, man, he's proven time and time again that he's still got it. He's proven that age is not a factor. He's come back and won fights in incredible fashion. I mean, Whitaker's just got that dog, and then we know that he's creative. He beat Ikram his last fight, which Ikram was a tough, tough opponent. Went on to beat Costa, which that was just obviously Costa isn't who he was before, but regardless, lost to Duplessis. But then he beat Vittori. Yeah, so his path has been left and right. He's had some swerves, but as of late, he's coming off of 2 wins. And he's looking incredible as well. I mean, his last fight against Akram, he looked incredible.
I
Very
mean,
good.
let's not forget that Robert Whitaker has played the role of the Max Holloway in the 185 division for the
Yeah.
longest time. He's cleaned out everyone else. He's
Yeah.
completely solidified himself as the best guy in the division based on his resume. And if anything, I think it's going to go Robert's way because he's already done this with so many grapplers.
Yeah.
Think about it. He beat Cannonier, he beat Vittori, he beat Brunson, he beat Gastelum. He beat all those guys who are great grapplers and kept them on the feet and starched them. And he's done it with strikers. He did it with Darren Till. He did it with so many. I mean, he's done it with the best. And I
Yeah.
think without a doubt, it's Robert's fight to lose if he could get it out of the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
I think that's foregone conclusion. He's just got to conserve his gas tank, especially if he's put on his back. Don't try to do too much. Just get out of the round and let him burn himself out because you know he will.
Absolutely. And we've seen that with Hamza. Like after say give him like 2 rounds are his best rounds. And then after that he's gassed, you know. We saw with Usman, he got gassed very quick and he was coming off of a full camp. And although yes, Usman had 11 days notice and he hadn't had time to prepare for Usman, regardless, he was coming off of a full camp, whereas Usman wasn't. And Usman was able to just sit there and last.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, I just think that I don't know, man. I think Whitaker is gonna take it. I think he's just too creative. And although yes, he has that age on him, I just think that he has that dog in him. I think he's just gonna be able to withstand that fight. He's been here before. Although Hamzat is a very, very dangerous fighter, and he's one of those grapplers that we haven't seen in a while. Um, but I just think he's been here before. He's been pressured before. He's had his ups, he's had his downs, he's been knocked out. Like I just think that right now and the trajectory that he's going, I think he's gonna pull it off. And a lot of people are gonna be surprised on tomorrow when they see what Whitaker can really do. So I'm really excited for this fight. I think it's I think it's going the distance. Either that. I don't really see Hamzat getting knocked out if I'm being honest, but I think it goes the distance and I think Whitaker gets his hand raised in the night.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't know if Chimaev's necessarily going to get finished. I mean, the dude is still incredibly is still very perseverant, and
Yeah.
he's still has a good chin on him and still could take a shot even though he got dropped by Burns. I have Bobby Knuckles winning this one by decision. I think once he weathers the storm, he's really going to settle in, find his range, and really pick up the rhythm and really start picking Hamzat apart as the fight goes on. So I definitely got Robert in this one. And
100%.
without further ado, the BMF versus the champ, the Blessed Expressed versus El Matador. We got Ilya Topuria and Max Holloway for the 145 strap. And Edgar, this is the fight that everyone has wanted since UFC 300, has it not been?
Yes, I will say I really do wish this fight was in Spain. I really wish this fight was in Spain. I think they lost out on that. They should have been in Spain.
Mm.
I mean, Deporia asked for it. Holloway asked for it. It should have been in Spain. In my opinion, why are we in Saudi Arabia? I don't know. I don't know. Or Abu Dhabi. I don't know why we're there. This fight should be in Spain. And I know Topuria's a Madrid fan. He wanted it in the Bernabeu, which is Madrid Stadium. You know, Visca Barca. I'm a Barca fan. And funny enough, uh Holloway is a Barca fan, and I do want to point out it's also funny because so this is the El Clasico of the UFC. This
Yeah.
is and right before during the same time, Barca is playing Madrid at 2 p.m. So
on Saturday?
on Saturday.
Hey.
So it's you've got Barca versus Madrid. This is one of those fights that should have been. But actually, you know what? It makes sense why it wasn't. It's because they're playing at Madrid Stadium at the Bernabeu. But
Oh, okay.
I wish this fight was postponed to, or not postponed. I wish it was made for the following weekend so that it could have been in Spain. Um, because man, that would have been incredible. I mean, I know the crowd. I've heard on TV just the crowds in Spain. I mean, you got like we were talking about it earlier. Crowds in the UK, they're crazy, but you got crowds in Spain. That's another level of crazy. They got man, they'll kill you out there. They're different. So I'm I'm excited. I'm excited. And as Holloway's nickname, we're blessed to be a part of this, to witness this fight. So it's massive, massive fight.
Oh, without a doubt. And I mean, I mean, right now you got a carousel at 145. I mean, you got Volk who's really still trying to get his bearings straight. You got Max who's on like just a meteoric level of momentum right now, and you got Ilya who just became champion, knocking out Volk who's one. I mean, considered one of the greatest of all time. If anything, there's like literally three featherweights who are all still gunning to be the best of all time. That's Aldo, Holloway, and Volkanovski. But this fight just it's it's so it's so perfect in so many ways.
Yeah.
There's very few fights where it's airtight, point blank, period. No one is going to say no to this fight. No one is not going to tune in. No one is going to say that either men are not deserving of this fight. This has all the credibility, all the merit, and all the marbles at 145. Not to mention a fight week lead up that saw Max Holloway get upset and these two actually go at it. Him and Volk kind of went at it in the third fight. Max never really goes at it. Now it's like they're really talking. And I think that's that's really speaking volumes to how much this means to both these guys. I think Max is going to have to compose himself come Saturday night because if he goes in there trying to come at Ilya is quite the counterpuncher. You're gonna want to put him. You're gonna want to put him on the back. You gotta put him on the back foot, but you can't charge at him because you told that dude's a matador, just like you did. The
Yeah.
dude's a matador. He's gonna pull off that curtain from you, bro.
But if Topuria pulls off that move in the first 10 seconds, he says, "Come here, come to the middle of the ring, of the octagon."
Yeah.
And Max Holloway came out and said too, he said, if you're gonna do that move, because that's Holloway's move. He said, if
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna do that move, that means you're gonna stay there. It means you're not gonna get out of there. You're not just gonna throw 10 punches and then leave.
Oh
You're
yeah.
gonna sit there and battle it out until somebody dies. And
Yeah.
I love that. Like this fight, a lot of people don't like Topuria. I love Topuria because of
Mm-hmm.
what he's done for the UFC, the new crowd that he's brought for the UFC. I mean, we have not seen anybody like Topuria in a very, very long time. From going from, somebody who we kind of knew about to this guy who's been on a meteoric rise now, and then Holloway being Holloway. Everybody loves Holloway. Everybody knows Holloway coming off of a massive win, a massive knockout against Gaethje, which, oh my God, just stunned me. I was baffled watching that fight and seeing Gaethje get knocked out in the literal last second.
Best knockout ever.
And also, he was being dominated the whole, like, it wasn't like it was just the last 10 seconds. It was the whole fight.
Mm-hmm.
Just did something to Gaethje that I never expected. And he has the power to put your lights out. Tapuria has the power and the striking ability. I mean, he's as much of a boxer as it gets when it comes to the UFC. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's
He's clean. He's
he's
crisp.
crisp. Yes, crisp. I
You just
love the fight style. It's
see
so
that fool
entertaining.
hit pads like it's just
Yeah.
oh my god.
I'm sure you've been watching Embedded and you've seen how he punches. I mean, those are lethal. Those are lethal. I mean, this is one of those fights where I think it's 50-50. Man, I'm just I couldn't be more excited for this fight. This is that one fight that when I saw it got announced, I started jumping because I knew that this was gonna be a tough fight for both fighters. We know Topuria got it, but Volk was coming off of two losses to Makachev. So Volk
Mhm.
wasn't the same Volk that we knew. Holloway, he's coming on a meteoric rise right now, so I'm kind of like, you know. Tapuria is obviously the champion. We know he has it, but put him against Holloway, and we'll really see what he's about. Come tomorrow night, we'll really see. And if Holloway can pull it off and become champion, I mean, that's just incredible. There's so much to lose for both fighters in this fight, so much to lose. So I'm so excited.
I'd certainly argue that in the corner of Holloway that there's less to lose,
Yeah.
considering, I mean, he's still going to keep the BMF strap. They're already talking about an 8-man BMF lightweight tournament, which
Yes, that's true.
that's a whole nother video. I'm not even going to start talking about that. But um Max has got a lot of other opportunities, and he looks so good at lightweight against one of the very best at lightweight. That may be his new division because he bulked up the right way. We can't confirm that though. We got to see what happens on Saturday night, and we got to see how this chin reacts with the power of Topuria, which is spectacular. I mean, he has a large back on him. His technique is perfect, so you know all that power is coming straight from Max's chin. And sure, we saw his chin get chipped. It didn't get cracked. It was bent by
Yeah.
Gaethje, which didn't even technically count as a knockdown. It, in all intents and purposes, it was a knockdown. It would have counted in boxing. I don't know why it wouldn't count in MMA. So, with that being said, if Max fights a smart fight, a measured fight, a cerebral fight, I think he's got this. If he takes the bait in the first 10 seconds, it's gonna be a coin flip. It's
Yeah.
legitimately going to be a coin flip.
Yeah. I know it's gonna happen. I want to say Max has to be absolutely perfect, but we know it's coming. We know that they're gonna go towards the middle of the ring at some point during the fight, whether it's in the beginning or in the end. It's gonna happen. Like Max, he loves that fight. He loves that type of fight. He thrives in that type of fight. Taporia, he's still trying to prove himself because obviously he's coming off of a win against Volk, but you got a lot of guys that have a lot of doubt in him. So he's still trying to prove himself. And I like this fight, like you said, it really is a coin flip. I couldn't really say one or the other who's gonna win, but oh my God, I mean, it's it's all gonna come down to that final who's gonna get the better of each other in that little 10-second run. So I mean, me personally, it's tough, but I'm gonna have to go with Holloway. I just think that something I think he has the edge just due to his experience and being here in the fight game for so long and having been against the best, coming off of a massive win against a truck like Gaethje. Um, I think he has that slight edge, but because of that, I'm gonna have to give it to Holloway. And you know what? I'll say by knockout as well, just because I know it's coming. I know they're gonna do the little move. I know it's gonna happen. I think he's gonna pull it off.
I mean, I sure hope it happens at some point. First 10 seconds, we'll
Maybe
see.
not.
Last 10 seconds, I'm down.
Absolutely.
Put my money on the table for Holloway. I still a bad idea, but just by principle.
And his gas tank
Here's the
too.
thing. If the Holloway that fought Justin Gaethje shows up on Saturday night, I'm giving this fight to Holloway point blank period because he fought a perfect fight.
Yeah.
Fought measured. He fought cerebral. He fought smart. If the guy that comes in against Volk the third time, if the Max versus Volk the third time shows up, it's going to be a bad night for him. But
Yeah.
if I'm being totally honest, I think Max is prepared for this fight, and I think he's going to fare better in this fight than he did against the one against Volk. So, final pick, I'm going Max Holloway, but I think I got to go by unanimous decision, unfortunately. I wanted there to be a finish,
Yeah.
but I got to go by decision. I think Holloway's going to fight smart, he's going to fight clean, and I still don't know what Topuria's chin, how his chin's going to hold up against Holloway. He already got dropped by Jai Herbert, but you know, I got to go with Max by decision.
Yeah. And also too, I think Holloway, his gas tank is just incredible too. He has one hell of a gas tank and I don't know. I just we don't know about Topuria yet. And also when he fought Volk, I mean Volk is more of a wrestler and a grappler in that sense, and he'll take you down and beat you on the ground. But Topuria, he's a stand-up fighter, which is kind of a match made for Holloway, in my opinion. Like I just think that type of fight just suits Holloway because that's his fight, like that's his game. So think he's gonna lure Topuria in and just get it and get that win. So I think we'll see what happens because if Holloway does beat down Topuria for the majority of the fight, like he did against Gaethje, and then does the move in the last 10 seconds, I think he's getting the knockout. But if he's the one getting beat up for the whole fight, that might be a different story. You know, it really, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I just I have to give that edge to Holloway.
Momentum's going to dictate the pace in this fight, and Holloway's always known for gaining momentum very quickly, and especially capitalizing on those moments. But we're not going to know. Saturday night, Etihad Arena, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Central Time. We are going to find out who the real champ is at 145. Is it going to be the Matador, or is it going to be the Blessed Expressed, who keeps going around in circles around all these fools? Thank y'all for watching Slingin Leather. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button for more of Southern California's official combat sports show, and be sure to hit the comment section below on who you think is going to win, the BMF or the Matador. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to Slingin Leather. We will see y'all next week for the recap on UFC 308, and we hope y'all have a great rest of your day.
Peace.